Welcome back. Let's dive right in. We're going to work on the next section of buttons here, and hopefully we can fly right through these. I'm going to take this object as the example object, load it into the system. I'm now going to go into face mode, which is polygon mode. Okay. I'm going to select some of these faces. Don't need back face on or off, but I'm going to turn it off for this example. We can left click and that will just break that off. You can see in the preview here, we just have a broken edge. We do have two UV elements, but nothing's been solved or packed. Okay, so it's just a basic break function. Left click will break with polygons. Right click will take all of your polygons and break all of them. So now we have a UV element per face that was selected. Okay, now if we have edges here, we can left click just to break the edge. That's basic. With vertices, we can left click to break the vertices, and that's basic. Now, if you happen to map something out, and let me give you an example here. If we do this, I select faces like this, and I SSUV them, these vertices here are actually being shared. So that is a connective set of faces, right? And that's not always going to work for you. You're not going to always be happy about that. So I'm going to right click on filter, I'm going to go to vertex mode, select those, click break. Okay, those are broken now. I can now just go and left click on filter to get out of that. And there we are. So yeah, that's break. Next is weld. Let's open up the editor for this. And it's good. We have those four faces to work with. Okay. So we'll take this one and move it off. This one, move it off. Okay. So if I select this vertices, okay, we can get rid of the other connection there. You see that it is this one and this one. If I select weld, it's not going to weld it because there's a threshold setting that is found here in the editor, and that's set to 0.01. I can set that to 1,000, which just is forced back to 10. I believe that's like 10 UV units. Okay. I don't use it very often, so I can't remember because I'm busy using it in the next banner I'll show you. So if I left click now, you can see it did weld. It welds to the center point. Okay. Now that's basically what the right click does. So you can leave this threshold in place to always be whatever threshold you prefer, so that when you left click, the threshold will be taken into account. Now, if you just want things that are connected to be welded, we can just select vertices and right click, and that will force a weld at the midpoints of these vertices locations. And now that's a blob object right there. There's no map seams on that. So left click to weld within threshold, right click to force weld it from wherever the heck it is located. All right. Close that out. Stitch is next. Let's select some faces. I'm going to increase this and right click to break. Right click to break. I think I clicked the tooltip accidentally. All right, so there we are. Now I want to stitch this face back into these other faces. Okay, let's get into this so it's easier to see. We have 9 faces that are 9 elements. I'm going to select that center face and click stitch. So the left click of stitch will find the first set of vertices on an edge and then connect them and then lose your selection, right? Then you have to select it again, stitch again, select it again, stitch it again. You get the idea here, right? Well, I got tired of doing that for certain things because at certain times it would come up where I would need to rush through this, right? And there's many different ways you can handle this, but this is just one of them. So I can select this one in the middle and click super stitch. There you go. All right. Now, if we take a look at this, it's not exactly going to be pretty every single time. Let's make a blob. Then we're going to box map. I will now do the same thing real quick, just as a good example. Break that. Then we'll select that. Let's bring this back in. Okay. So I'm going to move this out. So imagine that these are, well, what the heck? Well, let's just pack them. And There we go. Okay, let's get these out of the way. This is just to be a little more thorough with this. Okay. So now if I select this piece and I left click stitch it, okay, we are stitching and the piece is coming to us. Okay, so we had that location, we click stitch, and this other piece, I'm going to break that back off and put it back, flew to us. So it's stitching from or stitching to the selection. Okay, so left click, stitch to the selection. Okay, now let's do that again, and I'm going to right click. It's going to stitch from it to the other piece. I hope that works in concept because I can't remember the specific term that's used in Max. But you can see here that, okay, maybe that was too close. Yeah, there we go. We can use these two. So I'll take this one and I'll right click stitch. You can see it sends that edge all the way over to be taken care of for the stitching. Okay. Let's go back to this. We're going to do that and break that. Okay. Now we'll select all these and pack them. All right. I'm going to select this one now, and I'm just going to click Super Stitch and watch what happens. Okay. So now you can see here, there is our centerpiece, and all the other pieces that have been welded to it have been moved to that piece. Okay. So if we wanted to, we could double click and get that and super stitch that. Now, the more faces you have selected, the longer this is going to take to process, obviously. And if you have more than 20 faces selected, the system will give you a pop-up for you to confirm that you want to proceed. So there's a safety measure in that. So now I'm going to now see that I'm almost fully stitched, and I'm going to select these three and just click Super Stitch. There we go. We're fully stitched up. Now that's a weird example, but you'll find use cases for it at certain moments in work. I'm sure you will. So next we have clusters. So the cluster rescaling is basically averaging the textile density. We have a great example already prepared. I'm just going to left click and we will get the average textile density. Now you notice that the smaller pieces were scaled up and the larger piece was scaled down. Okay. Let's take these and pack them. We're going to close this back out and get the checker override back on. All right, so we're getting there. Okay, next is element. So this one is interesting. So we can select one face and then left click to select an element. And then if we wanted to select the entire object, we can right click. It doesn't automatically update the viewport until you move around. So you'll see that left click, you can see it, right click. It should update in the viewport. I think there's just some quirk with this video software, but if you can't see it update, just make a movement in the viewport and it should update. Now I'm sure some of you are thinking to yourself, well, what's the point of that? You can just select it all or Control A. Well, if we're going to take a few objects like this, say we have 3 spheres, they all overlap. We're using an instanced modifier. Okay, we're going to pack those. How are we going to know which one's which? And we need to handle the interfaces that we can't see just yet, or the ones that are intersecting the other objects. Well, what we can do here is select this and left click to select that element, but we can also right click to select that entire UV set, right? So that makes it nice and easy. So if you actually can't get to something, you can click until you get to it. Now you have one face selected on that element inside of that other volume, okay? Then we can right click and we have the full object selected, right? So that's pretty good. All right, so we've encountered right now what is a max bug for going into X-ray mode. So Alt-X will usually take you from material default shading mode into what looks like this, which is a transparent mesh. But right now, if I hit Alt-X, we're not exiting the transparency mode, which is the X-ray mode. We're actually going to this mode. So this is how I get out of this. And And it may not always be best for everybody, but I collapse that down and I move that around. The viewport will update, but if it doesn't, what you need to do is go into each object's polygon mode, Control A to select all, and then you can Alt X, and then that should bring it back to this mode here. I believe it's not a normal thing to encounter unless you have the max material override system turned on. I think that's where the problem is coming into play. Okay, so you have that information in case you need it. It's just nice to know things, at least I think. Next we have straighten. So let's go do this. Delete, delete, and delete. I will select this, add it to the system. 3, Control A. We're in polygon mode. We're going to, oops, I clicked the wrong pack. That's fine. You can close that out. Oh, okay, this is a good example because it's crooked now. So if we wanted to, we could just select this one, which is crooked, but it's also not straightened for the standard straighten method. So we're going to click straight. That will straighten it for us because it's going to handle straightening it anyways, right? And there's that. We can also select the entire object, select straighten, and you'll see that the triangles can't be straightened. So, you know, I don't blame Max. I can't straighten a triangle either. So what we're going to do here is just relax these with a spread. Okay, and I did the wrong spread. I clicked the full spread, so we're going to go back and straighten again. Select the top and the bottom. We'll click the correct spread button this time. Control A and then pack. Okay, so now we have straightened out sides. Okay, and the top is laid out good, well too. So there you go with that. That's your straighten. And if you end up with, let me just show you this real quick. You have anything that's at an angle. So this is at a 45-degree angle. To straighten that, go into edge mode, select an edge on that element, and then you can click this align button. Not these other align buttons, but this one specifically. And that will take the closest 90 degrees, I believe I set it to. So if it's going to go vertical or horizontal, and then you're set. If you need to continue rotating it, select the element and use the rotate feature. Okay. Next, we have the relax system. Okay. The relax system is quite fun because the first one is a left click and a right click for unheld perimeter. So that will relax and that will change the size of the elements. The green and blue one is holding the external perimeter and just relaxing the internal faces or edges. The orange and yellow is for bringing up the relax UI. So you can set your own settings here. Okay. And I can improve how certain things work based upon features. If you guys find that you have a way that things work well for what you're doing and you want a preset placed into this, let me know. I can always do something like this bake menu. We can set like preset for human heads or preset for this thing or that thing. We can make presets for these different relax sections here. Okay, so let's get into what these actually look like. Now I'm going to take the straighten section, which is a great example to begin with. I'm going to left click, and you see that pretty much gave us what we expected. I'm going to take this section, and I'm going to right click. I think that gave me a better result. Right click, what is this? Right click is relaxed by face angle. The other is by edge angle. The edge angle one doesn't look bad, but it does look like it's not giving me the correct geometric volume representation in the UV coordinates. Nonetheless, that's preferential. It's what you prefer, what you think looks best. So let's grab the other straight piece here. And now we're going to, let's zoom in on it anyways, for a little extra visual. Oh, I'm going to left click. You see that the external perimeter didn't change, but the interior did. So let's make a better example here. I'm going to take this selection, rotate, and flip it. So now we have a mess. That just does not look good. So I'm going to select that. left click, and you see that the mesh has been solved for us. I'll do the same thing again. Rotate, flip, good enough. Select it all and right click, and there we go. That's been solved for us. So the edges and faces on that one as well. I showed you that left click opens up the relax dialog along with the UV editor, and there's those two right there. Now right clicking the yellow and orange button will give you a relax until flat. So be very careful with this if you're not aware of how this works. If you have a high poly object and you want to relax it, your system can feel like it's stalled out until Max completes the process. So just be aware that it's not always ideal. I mean, I just right clicked it for what I have selected here, and you can see how long it's taking already. Like, I don't know what it's doing, but it's obviously thinking it's needing to recreate the wheel, which is fine. It can recreate the wheel. We don't have enough wheels, right? But there we are. So now we don't even know where that's located. Let's take a look. Where did they place it? Oh, it is in the center here. So there we go. Now let's just Control A to select all and pack it. And there we go. Now, you see how that is laid out? It does look pretty good. I mean, that's not so bad. Let's see what else we can do, though. So we're going to UV blob, box map that, double click, control double click, control double click. We'll SSUV it. And there we go. Let's Control all and pack. So, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I think that the result we received from the relax until flat for these three pieces is one. I think the result was smoother, but I mean, left click. I think we're pretty close, just right there. So you can save yourself time, but it's there if you need it. Okay, so copy, select, and paste. This is a little different. You need to have similar geometry to an extent. Sometimes it will not care. Sometimes it will care. I can't remember how I set that up. So forgive me. I can make another video on this later once I go back through the functions for this. But what we're going to do is add that to the system. We'll add this one to the system. I'm going to select all and make a blob. Okay. I'm going to grab this one, 3, and copy all of those faces on top. And I just like to remove these miscellaneous ones, okay? So now I'm going to left click to copy the selection. I'm going to go back over to this object, turn off back facing, and select that top section. Was it? Yeah, it's just this section. Now I can right click this, and there we go. We copied and pasted it from one object to the other, but we didn't include these pieces because we'd have to specifically select them, okay? Now, there is a way to make certain things very easy. Like if we're going to work on a quad, it's not going to care if you're matching vertices numbers. So let me give you an example here. We'll select this one. Okay, we're going to copy that. I'm going to go over here and do this. Okay, I'm going to right click and paste. Paste. Okay, now let's see what happens when I just select a bunch of them and right click. You see, we fill them, but you notice something. We're not getting map seams, so we're actually sharing the vertices for the UV vertices. Let's do this. We'll select the entire object and right click. So you see right now, what we've done is we've taken this object and we've UV mapped it to the same 4 coordinates for most of the object. But if we, let's go take a look. Check this out. Object info, process that. Select all of this and process. Okay, so our texture vertices, we only have 70. And those are at the top and the bottom, and then 4 are used for all of the rest. Okay, and there we go. So let's get back out of this. That's pretty wild looking. All right, so now what we're going to do is go into the full object selection. So I'm going to take this object. I do not want to be in any special mode here, so we're going to go to the base of the modifier. I'm going to left click copy object. Okay. I'm going to take another object. We'll use this one. I'll copy that one and I'm going to duplicate this a few times. Okay. These are all editable polys. We do not need to worry about having a modifier on them. Okay. So we're just going to have those selected. And I'm going to right click that same button, the object paste. And we'll crawl through and we'll iterate as we add an unwrap modifier because there wasn't one there for us to use. Currently selected, meaning that when we iterate through, we're actually selecting every single object. So it would grab the top modifier, so it would have to be an unwrap modifier at the top. Some of these functions do save the modifier location into memory so that it doesn't expect to add information to the top, but I can't remember specifically at this moment which functions do that. We can get more deep into information and documentation on this as time rolls on. As you can tell, there's a lot of work in this, and we're getting there. So there you are. There's all of your objects that have been copied and pasted, and that's what that does. So that's at 21 minutes for those buttons. We're going to just rail through these next sections in this next video. There's not going to be as long. Okay.